when you're out in the world.
Okay, we're learning in chapter 9. The Alter Rebbe is detailing the stages of what happens in your mind and your heart when a person meditates and thinks about Hashem. Now, there's far more to this than what the Alter Rebbe says. He's only talking here about Abeinani. But there are records of people that took it even further. To the point, for instance, well, we're up to the point of describing Abba B'tai Nugim, so the love of delights, which comes after a strong love, Abba Aza, very strong love, based on one's perception of godliness in the world, which then progresses to Abba Rabbah, a great love, which is from the depths of the heart, which is an extra level, Chiba Yesera, an extra measure of love. Which then takes one to the point that the love fills the inside of the heart, like coats the inside of the heart. It's not a physical thing, but the heart is physically affected. The heart swells as a result of feelings of love, and the heart shrinks because of feelings of dislike. There's a famous story in the Talmud that we read on Tisha B'Av, during the fast of Tisha B'Av. We read the story about the Roman emperor came to fight against Yerushalayim and to destroy Yerushalayim. He eventually didn't do it. Rabbi Yechon ben Zakkai got himself smuggled out of the city. The terrorists in the city, Jewish terrorists, were determined to fight against the Romans to the end, to the bitter end, and they would not allow anybody outside the city. He felt with the sages that we have to reckon with them, or we'll be totally annihilated. And the sages wanted to make peace, wanted to whatever possible with the Romans. So his nephew was the leader of the terrorists, and realized it was a mistaken position. Obviously, it was a very powerful personality. And together they were able to pull it off. He got himself smuggled out of the city, pretending to be dead in a coffin. He was smuggled out of the city, and he confronted the emperor and said, "Hail unto thee, Emperor of Rome." And he said, "You're guilty of the death penalty for 2 reasons. He said, "Why?" He said, "Because I'm not Emperor of Rome. So that's treason against the emperor, the real emperor, that you're calling me the emperor. That's treason. A person who commits treason is guilty of death. And secondly, because if I am the emperor, why didn't you come until now?" And there was a great tzaddik, a colleague of the Alter Rebbe, who used to meditate on this at Rosh Hashanah before shofar blowing. If I am the emperor, why didn't you come to me until now? At which point, a messenger came running up and said, "Hail unto thee, Emperor of Rome. The emperor is dead, and you have been appointed by the Senate as a new emperor." So he was overwhelmed at the insight of this great rabbi, Rabbi Yechon ben Zakkai. Similar story took place with the Alter Rebbe when he was in prison because of the libelous charges that had brought against him by the opponents, the opposition to the Hasidic movement. And the Tsar wanted to see this remarkable rabbi, wanted to meet him. He disguised himself and came to visit the Alter Rebbe in prison. And when he came into the cell, the Alter Rebbe stood up and said, whatever he said, hail unto thee, Tsar of Russia. And he said, how do you know that I'm the Tsar? How can you call me the Tsar? He said, because in my life, I never felt such a feeling of fear in the presence of another man as in your presence. So I knew that you must be the king. We've learned about the 10 spheres. This is the sphere of Malchus, which is manifest most of all in the king himself. Malchus is kingship. The kingship of Hashem is expressed when, and most of all, in the Shabbos. Or in the Rebbe, the leader of the Jewish people of the generation. He is the king, like King David. David Melech. So the emperor was, in fact, at that point, putting on his greaves. You know what greaves are? You know what greaves are, Sydney? Didn't learn English? Greaves, Greaves, greaves. They are metal shin protectors worn by soldiers in war, so they don't get slain by an arrow in their shins, in their leg, like from the knee down. Metal leg protectors, greaves, armor, leg armor. Well, he was in the middle of taking off his greaves when the rabbi met him and called him emperor, and then they came and told him he really was the emperor, and he couldn't get his greaves off because his legs swelled up, because he was so elated to hear this news that he had been appointed emperor of Rome, the Roman Empire. So he turned to the rabbi and said, what do I do now? He said, have someone that you really intensely dislike pass before you. What will that do? He said, that will make your bones to shrink. There's a pasuk, there's a verse that says, Shemaya Toiva Tedoshen Otzem, happy tidings, hearing happy tidings, happy news, good news, makes the bones grow fat. The rest of the pasuk is that you see an enemy, it makes the bones shrink. So he had some enemy pass in front of him, and he was able to get his leg armor off. So we see from this that feelings actually do affect us physically, and love of Hashem will affect your heart. And so your heart swells with love until it spills over from the right side of the heart to the left side of the heart.
Right.
Malka.
Okay. No, you'll be happy about this.
Don't make judgments, value judgments like that.
Okay.
You don't know how I'm going to be happy or not going to be happy.
Okay. Anyways, on Monday when we were in our
I'm a teenager, you know. I don't like being judged.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry you have teenage.
Don't do it again.
Anyways, so
Rachel O'Connor, welcome.
Morning.
Good morning.
So on Monday in our Navi class, we get to the word lave and it has the two bases, and then
What?
How you were talking about like the word for heart where it can have two bases sometimes.
Yeah, in the Shema.
Yeah, so we read it in our Navi class, and then Mrs. Goldstein was going to tell us what it was, and then of course all of us that were in your Tanya class that morning knew exactly what it meant.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we got to use what you taught us in class.
Yeah. Well, that the Tanya's. That's why we go so quickly through the Tanya, because it's hard to move quickly through the Tanya, because every word has layers of explanation behind it. You shall love the Lord your God, behold, levavcha, page 145, with both sides of your heart. They've got the whole world here in the Tanya. You know, one of the colleagues of the Alter Rebbe said, paying attention?
I am.
He said, how did he put such a big God in such a small book? How did he do that? Well, We've got a big Torah. It's also in this book, because Hashem and the Torah is one thing. You could write that down in your notes. If Ms. Baum was here, she likes to take notes. I wanted to say to her, by the way, just for the record, she asked a very deep question the other day. What's the difference between quantity and quality of one's appreciation of Hashem, of the greatness of Hashem? What's the difference? Well, quantity, let's take an example of charity. Person gives tzedakah. The quantity is how much? Did you give 10%, 15%, 20%, 60%? How much money? How much did you do? That's quantity. What's the quality? The quality, I would suggest, is the way you relate to the recipient. Do you relate to this person coldly, or do you relate to him with love and understanding? That's your feelings. So the feelings with which you do a mitzvah, that's the quality of the mitzvah. That determines the quality of the mitzvah. And that's something that doesn't have a limit to it. There is the in-between ground is how beautifully do you do the mitzvah. It's an in-between ground because that could also be measured by how much money do you spend on the mitzvah. How much are you going to spend on an esrog? You're going to give an esrog for $18 or for $180 or for $1,800. Depends on how much you love the mitzvah. And in this area, is it just the money that determines how you're going to feel about the mitzvah? Or is it the mitzvah itself that determines the love that you have for it? Rabbi Levi Yitzchak Berditchev is famous for his love of mitzvahs because that was to him the same as love of Hashem. So when it came Sukkot, he couldn't sleep the first night of Sukkot, because he was so anxious at the earliest possible moment in the morning to go and bench lulav and esrog. So this brings us to the level of love called Abba B'tainugim, where one's not just you have a great and overwhelming love, not just a fiery love in your heart, not just a love that spreads out, that makes the heart swell and fills both sides of the heart, so that even the Yetzer Hara feels a sense of love and happiness to be on Hashem's team, to be on the winning team. But more than that a person takes delight in doing a mitzvah. How do you take delight in doing a mitzvah? Well, for you girls, I would suggest that you might come close to this when you light Shabbos candles, especially when it's still a new experience, and it should be a new experience forever. It should always be new. And if you think about it, that the Baal Shem Tov teaches us, and it's brought in Chassidus over and over again, that Hashem is creating the world constantly out of nothing, so that every experience you do is completely new. You never lit candles before this Friday night. You lit candles before, but not like this Friday night. Because this Friday night, look at how much we learned since last week. So it's totally new. So you have a new feeling for it. So therefore, it becomes something of great delight, that a person takes delight in doing a mitzvah. Let me illustrate to you. I'll tell you a story that illustrates what it means to have delight in doing a mitzvah. I had a very special friend. How we became friends is a story in and for itself. I noticed he was a Bal Kaira. He used to read from the Torah. He was excellent in reading from the Torah. He was even too excellent in reading from the Torah. He told me he used to deliberately make mistakes when he read from the Torah so that people would wake up, because they understood that he never made any mistakes. So he said, just let him keep on reading. They wouldn't pay attention. So he deliberately make a few mistakes along the way each week, so they would catch him and pay attention to the Torah reading. He fell ill. One day, he approached me and asked me to learn with him. I asked him to teach my son how to read from the Torah. And he said, on the condition that you'll learn with me Chassidus. I was so surprised. Why do you want to learn with me Chassidus? But he felt that it would be a good idea. And we learned Chassidus for over a year. We learned every day. And one day he says, that the doctor says I have a disease. His lungs were filling up with disease. And he asked me, do you think I'm going to get through this? I said, yeah, of course. He didn't. And in the end, he wasn't able to learn. He wasn't able to do anything. He was just struggling to breathe. And on Lag BaOmer, that year, my son, who is now turning 25, so it was 22 years ago, my son turned 3, which is the day of his haircut, first haircut, the age of 3. The Rav of the community, Rabbi Marlow, was also ill with a similar disease at that time. And he passed away a month later in Sivan. And so another friend of mine was a son-in-law, still son-in-law of the Rav. So I called him and asked him if it would be possible to visit the Rav. Well, they weren't taking visitors, but he'll inquire. He called me back. Yeah, it'd be good. So I brought my son over to get his first haircut. The first snip would be from the Rav, from Rabbi Marlow, Olam Sholem. And then I went with my 3-year-old son to visit my friend. We came into his house. He was sitting at the dining room table, but he wasn't sitting upright at the table. He was leaning forward. His forehead was against the edge of the table. He was struggling to breathe. There were 2 young people sitting beside him who were doing the mitzvah of visiting the sick, just keeping him company, that he shouldn't feel alone in his house. Rabbi Lerner. And I came in and I said, hello, it's David Shalom. He said, oh, David Shalom. He said, I can't learn with you today. I won't be able to do it. I said, I understand. I didn't come to learn with you. I came because it's Lag BaOmer and I have my son here. You could cut his hair. Brian, you should be able to give him a haircut. And he was filled with a feeling of life. And he sat up and he said, a mitzvah, a mitzvah. He was filled with happiness and he cut my son's hair. Similar story to that, which perhaps could be mentioned as a parallel, is in the life of the Rebbe, the second Rebbe of Lubavitch. He was very ill. He passed on the day that he was born, which is a sign of great holiness. And the doctors did not allow him to say Hasidus.
Didn't allow him to what?
What?
The doctors didn't allow him to.
Did not let him say Hasidus because they felt it would be too strenuous emotionally on him that it would cause him to pass away. But came to a point in the evening or the early part of the night where they saw it wasn't going to matter either way. And so they went and whispered in his ear, Rebbe, if you wish, you can say Hasidus. Now you wonder why was Rebbe listening to them? Because it's in Shulchan Aruch, you're supposed to listen to the doctor. He was very happy to hear that news, and he sat up in bed and he began to say a mimer. And he also began to see people, to give yichidas. And then that continued, saying the mimer, saying portions of the mimer, and seeing people several times through that night. And his son-in-law, who was Rabbi Menachem Mendel, the Tzemach Tzedek, the grandson of the Alter Rebbe, was his son-in-law. And he was with him. And when he saw this extraordinary thing, that the doctor said that if he wished he could say Hasidus and he was filled with new life, so he said, he commented, if you cut open my father-in-law's veins, blood would not come out, Hasidus would come out. So that's another a very similar example on a much higher level of what it means, the absolute delight that a person can take in Hashem. That's called Ava v'Tanugim. Tanug. You see they make a product now, a line of products for the household, of cereal and stuff like that. It's called Tanug. Tanug means delight. And we have also a Friday night called Oneg Shabbos. So this is the concept of Oneg, which is delight. Delight is the innermost feeling closest to the soul that there is. You see, when you ask a person, why did you do this? Because I want to. And nothing can stand before a very strong desire to do something. You want to learn, you really want, you'll learn. You want to be good, if you really want, you'll be good. You'll train yourself, you'll learn what it takes, you'll learn what you have to do, and you'll do it no matter how hard it is. You have an assignment, you have a mission to do, you really want to do it, nothing can stop you. Why does a person want something? That's called ratzon. Ratzon. Okay, ratzon is willpower. Willpower is a pervasive force in a person. It's higher. Willpower is higher than intellect. Willpower can make a simple person smart. If you want to become smart, you can become smart. You can transform your potential. You have an IQ of whatever, and you can raise it if you really want. Apply yourself. I saw examples of this in my student days. Simple boys who really wanted to succeed, and they became very, very proficient. Even though they were extremely simple at the outset. Okay, so wanting something is very, very powerful. You ask a person, why do you do this? Because I like it. I want to do it. And there's a saying on what a person wants, like this person, I love pineapple. I love sushi. I love water skiing. I love snow skiing. I love chess. What do a person love? Why do you love that? Why don't you love something else? You can't ask a person on what he loves, on what he desires. A person has a desire, he wants a thing. It says in Yiddish, a taiva fragment from kashas. When a person has a taiva for something, a lust for something, you can't ask why. It's because why is a question for intellect. It is a lust, a desire is higher than that. Why does a person want? They ask, why did Hashem make the world? So Hashem, he had a taiva. He had a desire to make the world. Why did he have a desire to make the world? It says in Rashi. Because he could, Hashem, time is irrelevant. The past, present, the future is all the same. So Hashem conceived of Jewish people doing mitzvahs. He created the world in order to enable this to happen. So he had this desire. Why did Hashem do it? Because he wanted to. You can't ask a question. Why did Hashem want this? Why didn't he want something else? Why didn't he want people to be space travelers? Why do you want us to do mitzvahs instead? That's what Hashem wanted. You can't ask a question of what Hashem wanted. This is called Kesser, the crown. What a king wants is law. The most powerful thing about a king is what he wants. And he makes his laws according to what he wants. This is the expression of his power as a king. Whereas his advisors, they express themselves through their wisdom. But a king has to be wise, but he rules as a king. The king rules according to what he wants. Why did Hashem create the world? Because he wanted. Why is it, however, Chassidus explains, why is it that we want something? Why do we want something? So that's called Kesser, the crown. is synonymous with the power, the willpower in a person. What makes a king who goes to war want to win the war? More than the money, more than the land, more than the it's just the power, the desire to win. This is characteristic of a king. And in order to win, it explains in the last Friedrich Rebbe's last Leimer, Pasuk Lagani, and the Friedrich Rebbe and the I Rebbe's commentary on it, that this power of desire to win, the willpower, is so strong that the king will take the inherited treasures of his dynasty that go back centuries, and he will give them to the soldiers to inspire them to fight with everything that they've got, because he must win the war. You see? So this is the power of Ratzai, which is compared to the crown. Crown makes the king. When Moshe Rabbeinu was an infant, Basya, the daughter of Parai, brought him into the palace of Parai. And what did he do? He reached up, the baby, Moshe, a 3-year-old child, reached up and pulled the crown off Parai's head. And Parai's advisor, Bilam, who was a real big anti-Semite, a nasty, terrible person, said, this is not good, Your Majesty. And quickly Basya ran to protect him, said, no, it's okay. And Yisrei, another advisor, stood up for him. So Yisrei received the Torah. Basya was admitted into Gan Eden, and the advisor was killed in war with the Jewish people eventually. Bilam, same person that drowned the Jewish children in the Nile. Okay, so the crown is this is the king. The crown is the king. But everything has an outer and an inner. What is the inner aspect of the crown psychologically? What the crown represents? That is delight. Oineg. That's what we're talking about the whole time. We're talking about oineg. Follow me? So now
Wait, Rabbi Pape?
called Ava B'Tanugim, love with oineg.
Rabbi Pape?
You want to do mitzvahs, not just you want to be connected to Hashem, but it's your whole delight. It's your whole pleasure in life. Like that friend of mine said, Rabbi Ram Lerner, all of a shalom. He said, a mitzvah. Or like the Mittler Rebbe, when he was told he could say Hasidus, he was so filled with life, with energy, with delight, that he started to say a mimer. And he said he continued saying the mimer and passed away in the middle of the mimer. And the last word that he said was the word Chaim, which means life. And it was exactly similar to what happened to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, that he also passed in the middle of saying a mimer, and the last word that he said was also Chaim. And the Tzemach Tzedek, the son-in-law of the Mittler Rebbe, who was there, said such an extraordinary thing has not happened since the time of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. So this is the idea of love of delights. Bina, you had a question up there?
Yeah. What was the baby story? Who was the baby?
Moshe Rabbeinu.
Oh, okay. That he reached for the crown. Is that what you said?
Yeah, he pulled the crown off the head of Pharaoh. And one of Pharaoh's advisors says, that's a Jewish child. You better get rid of him before he gets rid of you. And Basya, who had rescued him from the Nile, had adopted him as her child. And she didn't want to see this child killed. She saved his life.
Gotcha.
Therefore, Basya deserved a very, very high place in Hashem's worlds, in the world to come, because she saved the life, and she gave Moshe his name. Moshe's name originally was not Moshe. What was it? Tuvia. Tova. His name was Tuvia. Why? Yeah, why was it called Tuvia? Because when he was born, the house was filled with light. And Hashem, when he created light, it says Hashem saw the light, ki tov, that it was good. And so they called the baby Tuvia. Tuvia, good. Hashem is good. Or the goodness of Hashem. So his original name was Tuvia. And she gave him the name Moshe because min hamayim mishisihu, he was drawn out from the water. Which means his soul came from such a high level that it was higher than the whole chain of creation. So the inner meaning of the crown, the crown is willpower, the inner life, what makes a person want a thing is the feeling of pleasure that he has anticipating the doing of it. And that's called tainug. The tainug is the inner drive behind everything. That tells us about the importance of learning Hasidus, because it's a tainug, it's a great, because Hasidus opens up the channels of tainug in our mind, in our heart, and gives us great tainug in the service of Hashem. Okay, so that's Abba b'tainugim. So we've gone through level after level of love. So we're up to page 146. The top, Abba b'tainugim, a love which is an experience as delight. It is the experience of delight in godliness that is a foretaste of the world to come. L'sanig al Hashem, that one takes delight in God. My whole delight is not in any physical pleasure or not in any activity per se. It's in Hashem himself. Or like the Alter Rebbe wrote at the end, or the Rebbe put this at the end of Hayom Yom, that the Alter Rebbe was known to say in his moments of ecstasy in prayer, I don't want anything, Hashem, except you. All I want is you. That is an expression of the taking delight in Hashem, which is a foretaste of the world to come. Page 146, second Hebrew lines. Where do we experience this? B'moyach, in the mind. Which part of the mind? The wisdom, the right part of the mind. V'seichel, the intellect, and the intellect of a person, hamisanek, who takes delight, baskalas Hashem, in knowing ideas. And ideas about Hashem, they are very exciting to this person, and they fill him with a sense of happiness and delight. Until he connects with them, so that he knows these ideas. All depending on what is his intellect, how much is he capable of, and what is the nature of his neshama. And his mental capacity for ideas. V'hu b'chinas hamayim, and remember there are 4 elements that we deal with, right? So what's the element that has to do with desire? It's not fire, right? Next is, after fire comes, no, earth doesn't give a person a sense of delight. Water is a source of our delights. That's why you want to have a nice time, you go to the beach. You go to Florida or Puerto Rico or wherever you want to go, Mexico, where you have physical delights, because water is associated with delights. All the romantic stories take place by the water. You want to, a writer isn't going to write a love novel about the Arctic Circle. So oineg, this feeling of delight, comes from the element of water, a spiritual source element in the godly soul. Element of water in the godly soul. V'zera or zarua. Now we said before that the element lust and desire for physical pleasures, that comes from the element of water in the animal soul. So this desire, the element of water in the godly soul, will take on the element of water in the animal soul and transform it, and can totally transform the desire for physical pleasure in the animal soul and say, you know, my dear animal soul, I love you. You enable me to do so many things, but I have something better for you than what you know that you never knew yet. You'll get a lot more out of this. Go with me. You won't regret it. And the godly soul, in its tremendous delight in God, will transform the delight, the physical delights of this world in the animal soul into a desire to do the godly thing. And this, so what we're talking about now in the spiritual makeup of a person is from the element of water, v'zera or zarua, and like a seed that is planted in the holiness of the godly soul, that will out of it will grow a feeling of delight in the animal soul, hamachapeches l'toiv, and it will transform the love of physical pleasures in the animal soul. To read it in the Hebrew, hamachapeches l'toiv, which transforms to good, esbechinas hamayim shebenefesh habahamis, the element of water, which is pleasure, self-seeking pleasure in physical things in the animal soul, and transform it into a desire to be connected with God. Shemehem, because from the element of water in the animal soul, from thence comes bo taivas tainugi oilem hazeh mitachilase. That's where the delight in physical pleasures comes from in the first place. And you'll see from now on, this theme is going to come up in the Tanya again and again and again, that the biggest enemy that we have to confront in our service of Hashem is the basic pleasure of the animal soul in the delights of this world. Eat, drink, and be merry while you're here. That's the theme of the animal soul. Thank you very much, everybody. We're over time. Mrs. Nemni is waiting outside to come in. Anybody's name I did not call. Ariel, I did.